every single time at
Really?
youth group.
Oh,
I
that's
think
funny.
I've had to correct myself. Gethsemane.
It's a hard one.
Words are hard.
Words are hard. Gethsemane.
Gethsemane. I know like 75. 70. Yeah, not getting tested and getting judged.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekend in Review.
Heard that.
I'm Ryan Stockstrom, and this is
Michael Riva.
Welcome. So we wanted to just go over, again, the sermon from Sunday and talk about some upcoming stuff. But we're just going to dive right in. So this week, I felt impressed to start a new series called It's All About. And today, it's all about people. It's all about people. And ultimately, with the idea that there were a lot of players in the Christmas history. You know, we had the angels showing up, we had the star in the sky, but ultimately the main things that happened for and by people. And so ultimately, it's about God loving people and sending his son for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's one thing that stuck out to you, Mr. Mike?
Right away, something that stood out to me on this, it says, people, instruments for God's purposes. And that stuck out to me, being kind of a music nerd that I am. But if you think of like an orchestra, right? Mm-hmm. If you have one lonely violin by itself, yeah, sure, it may sound beautiful, but when you start adding in all the other instruments and they work together, just what an amazing thing can be accomplished, not only like just making a beautiful sound, but, as a team, they're working on the same goal in different ways. You know, what the cello plays is not what the violinist plays. And so they're taking all their own unique gifts and talents to come together to do something so powerful and moving and beautiful. Yep. And so that stuck out to me, that we are instruments for God's purpose. We all have our own unique capabilities, but when we put them together, we can do something so powerful for the glory of God together. That was really good. That was kind of what I gathered there.
That's good, how God just used like shepherds and humble Joseph and Mary. I mean, they were humble people.
Right.
And humble as far as in their heart, but also just humble circumstances. They didn't have much. But God definitely used them as instruments. And he also used, wise men who were probably affluent people, but were looking for something deeper, and they found it in the stars, which ultimately led to them to discover the prophecy about Jesus being born. But God uses people, and that was one of my main points, is that God uses people to reach people.
Right.
It could have been that the star and the angels shown to everybody. Obviously the star they could see from a distance, but the angels showed up to just the shepherds. And then the shepherds, they went and saw Jesus, and they experienced Jesus. And then it says they went and shared that experience with other people who were amazed at what had happened according to their testimony. So, again, Christmas is all about people. It's about God using people to accomplish his will. What did you think of the history of Zacchaeus that we looked into?
I thought it was good. So I had actually confused this story of Zacchaeus with another one. So actually going through and kind of reviewing this was good for me, obviously. There's a lot of things that he did that stood out to me. And one of them is his own confession. He didn't have to confess to taking more than he should have, or taking advantage of people the way he did, but he was seeking growth. He was seeking a true relationship, and wanted to know Jesus and wanted to know what Jesus had. And through that, he decided, I got to clean out the closet, and I need to be real with the things that I've done wrong. And I like how he owned up to it. Like, for me, that was a huge step in my relationship with Christ, was kind of coming to the point of, okay, like, I'm ready for this next step, God, what you have for me, but I know that I can't take this step until I start facing the things I need to face and working through the things I need to work through. And so just kind of reading through it, I feel like Zacchaeus had that same mindset. Like, I'm ready to move on in my life. Yeah,
he encountered Jesus, and real change happened.
Yeah, in a real way, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of things like are relatable from Zacchaeus' story. And of course I played out Zacchaeus' story quite a bit. Just the idea that, we know he was a short man according to the scriptures, but maybe he was also a short kid. Well, most likely. and maybe he was picked on, maybe he was bullied. But now, being an adult, he was the chief tax collector, and so he really had the authority to bully people.
Right.
But when Jesus came to town, something happened in Zacchaeus, and he needed to see Jesus. And so he ran ahead to that sycamore tree and climbed up it, and Jesus looked at him, and this was, again, big for Jesus to do, as far as he was a righteous man. People revered him as a rabbi, and he still said, "Hey, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house." I mean, it was a big deal that Jesus was willing to go, and they even muttered like, "Oh, he's just being a friend of sinners," and that just really, that act, I think, brings home the essence of the gospel, right? That there is no one who Jesus will not come to. In Revelation, he says, "I knock on the door of your heart. Whoever opens the door and lets me in, I will come and be with them." And really, we all have that choice, but there's no one that Jesus is going to look down upon and not allow his presence to come to, if you have an open and willing heart.
Yeah. And like in my eyes, you like, how brave is Zacchaeus to say, "Okay, yeah, come to dinner." You're like, if Jesus is like, "Hey, Mike, I'm coming to your house tonight for dinner. I'm going to come and sit at your table with you and your wife and your son," I'd be like, Nikki, I don't know what I would do.
Jesus is coming over.
You're right. Clean the house, quick.
Clean it.
But then at the same time, what do you need to clean out of your house? I don't know. I just think about that. Like, if Jesus were to come to my house right now and spend dinner with me or spend time with me, like, would he approve? Would he be satisfied or, happy with my decisions in my home?
Right.
So maybe going on a little bit of a rabbit trail there, but
no, that's it's a good rabbit trail. Like, as Christians, I think it's important to delineate the difference between, if you're watching this and you're a Christian versus if you're still just kind of checking out who Jesus is. Like, as Christians, we are called to investigate our heart.
Right.
And what's awesome to me is that Zacchaeus, he didn't necessarily investigate his heart, but after he'd been with Jesus, like you mentioned, then he goes into this like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to give back to the people that I ripped off 4 times the amount I took from them."
Yeah.
Like,
how powerful.
It's so cool. Yeah. And then I love at the end of that history, or that they shared about Jesus and Zacchaeus in Luke, it says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." Wow. That just sums up Jesus' whole purpose statement.
Yep. I like the way you put it. It says, ultimately, Jesus' plan was a rescue mission. His mission was the grandest covert op the world had ever seen. Coming from just a military background, just hearing it said like that, I'm like, wow. You hear some of these incredible Medal of Honor stories, and to think like the most incredible Medal of Honor story was Jesus coming and saving humanity. I mean,
and paying the ultimate price for it.
Yeah, we talked about this a minute ago, but the period of time that he came. I know in my classes we talked about it. If Jesus would have come in modern day in America, he would, before his execution, probably gotten a vaccine. They would have taken an alcohol swab and cleaned his arm before putting the needle in, because we don't want dead people to get, viruses or anything.
Yep.
It could have probably had it pretty easy. But Jesus, made a statement of how much he loves us, and to the extent that he loves us, by coming in the period of time he did. I mean, the Romans were hundreds of years mastering torture by the time that Jesus came. And there's so much material out there that you can find about it, but it's just incredible that of all the places and times that God could have been, or that Jesus could have been here, he chose the worst for torture. And for me, it's an impactful thing. Like, he's willing to go through that for me.
Wow. That's huge.
Right? Yeah.
It's powerful, Mike.
We did talk about the cleaning out of things, and kind of touching back on Zacchaeus giving all his stuff up. And you talked about making a strict box when you were a young Christian, I'm not listening to any secular music, but with that you kind of blocked everybody else out. And I think there's some good that comes from that. My wife and I went through this, we called it the purge at our house, and we purged out like 3 garbage bags of DVDs, movies, TV shows, music, video games, stuff that was just garbage that we shouldn't have been, putting in.
Right.
And so we got pretty extreme with it. We threw it out. I mean, if it had any bad words or anything, I mean, that thing went into garbage. And now we look back and we're like, not all of that was, horrible. There was quite a few things we could have watched and watched with discernment. But I think the act of going through and just saying, I want to clean this up, I think it was such a good thing that we had to go through for our own walk. I think,
I think there's an appropriate, as followers of Jesus, place for like setting yourself apart unto holiness to the Lord. And the danger is that if what you might feel God calling you to set aside or set apart for is saying, well, how come now every other Christian isn't doing it along with me?
Yeah.
I think that's the danger, and kind of the point that I was trying to hit at with this is the Pharisees, they had God's law, which was strict enough to try to keep, but then they took that and they added to it and added to it and added to it. And we sometimes do a really good job as Christians of ostracizing people in the name of trying to be holy. And I think that just breaks God's heart.
Yeah, like getting really legalistic with it.
Yes.
And I got really intense for a little bit, and like my siblings dreaded me coming over because I would go over, Bible, Jesus, and I'm intense. When I get into something and I get excited about something, everybody has to know how excited I am.
It's true.
It's super true. And so, I mean, I think I had, great intentions, but, how we go about sharing that, I feel like you really got to think it out. You got to be tactful in the way that we talk, especially people that are lost. If you come across we've all heard Bible thumper.
Yep.
And it's kind of a fine line there. But the question that you had following that was, am I living in such a way that makes it hard for lost people to recognize Jesus? And even when I first became a Christian, I still had all my military friends and my, auto body friends and stuff. And so shop talk happened quite a bit. So here I was, I'm a Christian, and then I'm engaging in some, just talk that's maybe inappropriate and stuff. And so, there's, it's taking inventory of how am I living and am I living in such a way that draws people into Jesus? Or am I living in a way that takes validity away from Jesus and pushes them further away?
That's really good. And I think like this begs the discussion of legalism versus license. So go to shop talk with your buddies. If we can say like, okay, my Christian beliefs are just for Sunday morning. It doesn't really affect my real life. Well, that's not what the Bible encourages.
Nope.
That's not really living a true Christian life. So that's the license side where you could have said, I can use an F-bomb every now and then and whatever, who cares? It's just shop talk. And that's the license side, and that isn't right because that's not really being true to who you are as a redeemed follower of Jesus.
Right, yeah.
But the flip side is the legalism side, and that's ultimately saying, I can't even be around those people ever because they are just heathen and they don't know God and blah, blah, blah. And we can get like that as Christians sometimes too, but that's not right because Christmas is all about people, right? Jesus is all about people.
Yeah. And that's not to say that you have to live and dwell in, toxic relationships by any means.
Agreed.
But, obviously if there's, if it's really toxic, you might want to step away. But the goal is to reach people that are lost. I mean, that's who we're after.
Amen.
So.
And what a good opportunity to just talk about this Christmas season. Right. We really want to encourage you, invite your friends. Like, this is a golden opportunity. This will be like the first major holiday since the pandemic started, where people are comfortable again being out in person. So, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but there are a lot of statistics that say that if you are invited by a personal friend, you're a lot more likely to go to church. So let's take advantage of that. Let's be inviting people.
Yeah. And, that kind of leads me to the next page here. It says, you wrote on here, it goes as far as making room for people to sit. Do we take up the back row even though we've been here for years, or do we sit closer to the front? and closer together on a busy service day so that newer folks who aren't as comfortable with our services can sit in the back and blend in a little more. So I'm notorious for sitting in the back. I love sitting in the back, quick escape. I'm not up front. People don't have to sit and look at me, and I get enough up front time. But, thinking of it from a perspective of somebody who's never walked into our church, doesn't know anybody, they don't want to do that walk of shame, so to say, of I'm new, I don't know anybody, here I am, I'm a spectacle. Let me walk all the way to the front in front of everybody and sit down.
Yeah.
That's something to think about. Maybe I'll start sitting a little closer to the front now instead of the back.
Right on.
I guess I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But
because ultimately we want anyone who's watching this to feel comfortable coming to church, and especially if you're new to church, we want to make room for you. That's a goal of ours.
Definitely.
So, yeah. Thanks, Mike. That's good. Yeah. And lastly, and we've been touching on this the whole time, but God uses people to reach people. And it's Christmas season. Who is God desiring you to reach this Christmas? Right? Who are those coworkers or family members or people who have been kind of pushed out, and maybe God's going to put someone on your heart, but I just want to encourage you, this is an opportunity to really spread and shine the light of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. This morning I spoke about fear over at the care center, and I want to tie it in. I just feel like tying it in here. Mm-hmm. Something that you talked about in the beginning was, so you spoke about not needing to be this perfect person, right? People who seemingly have it all together. And I sat in that for the longest time, that I'm too flawed, or I'm too this, I'm not good enough that to share the good news, or I don't know enough about the Bible to share it. And if you have a genuine relationship with Jesus, you can share that with people. All you need is your testimony. And I want to encourage you, if you feel like you're not adequate or not good enough, that is a lie. And I encourage you to poke holes in that lie with the truth that our Bible, speaks to us.
Amen.
So invite somebody, go out on that limb and invite someone, bring them with you. So,
amen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, we want to thank you for joining us today, and God bless you. I hope that you have a blessed week, and we look forward to seeing you this Sunday.
Peace.